2 months ago, I made a video about Bryan Johnson. No, not Bryan Johnson, the liver king. Bryan Johnson, the anti-aging health guru who says he's going to live forever. Now, there's something about that name, I don't really quite understand it, but being named Bryan Johnson somehow compels these individuals to become fake gurus and make up bogus health claims in order to sell their overpriced health supplements. There are some mysteries to the universe that most likely will never be solved. I don't know why that is. But since I made that video about 2 months ago about Bryan Johnson, more has come to light about him, and now there's more deception, more dishonesty that Bryan is putting out there. So we're going to be talking about that in this video. Can you believe it? He hasn't changed his ways. He's only gotten worse. I know, guys, I know. Now, before we get into the video, I also want to say he also did respond to a few things that I mentioned in the first video. So we'll take a look at that later in the video. And one thing I want to say is the video that I put out, it did quite well. I think it's like over 100,000 views at this point. And most of the comments were positive about that video, but there were a few people who I assumed were Bryan Johnson fans who said in the video that I was fat, and they weren't going to listen to me because they thought that Bryan Johnson was in better shape than me, and I'm a big old fatty. Which, if you don't know, that's called an ad hominem attack. And when you say something like that in the comments section, basically you're telling everyone, hey, I don't have an actual argument as to anything wrong in the video. I just want to make fun of you personally. So for this video, if there's a Bryan Johnson fan watching this video, you have to come up with actual reasons as to why something is wrong in the video. Say, Scott, you got this wrong here. I'm going to explain it to you. If you just call me a big old mean fatty in the comment section, it's going to hurt my feelings. And I'm also not going to take you very seriously because that's not a legitimate argument as to why you should disregard things I say in my video, right? Come up with actual arguments why you don't like the video. Now we're going to take a look at different things regarding Bryan Johnson. And the first thing I want to talk about, the first thing I want to mention, one comment that I saw was people were saying, hey, you should try Bryan Johnson's products, and see if they actually work for you, Scott, right? And what these individuals didn't know, I didn't mention this in the first video, I have actually tried several of Bryan Johnson's products. This particular product, I'll show a picture on the screen. I bought this all the way back in September of 2024. So way before I made a video, I've been looking into Bryan for a long time. I bought his longevity mix. This is the blood orange longevity mix. And as you can see, it's still like half full. I never finished it. Bought it back in September. Mostly because I didn't really feel like it was that beneficial. It's got a bunch of creatine in it. I take creatine in pre-workout. If I don't take pre-workout, I take creatine gummies. And this has a bunch of creatine in it as well. And I didn't really feel like it was all that beneficial. So I never finished Bryan Johnson's longevity mix. I still have it just sitting in my cupboard since September of last year. But what happened was, when I bought that product, I gave Bryan Johnson my email address, signed up for the emails, and I've been getting emails from Bryan Johnson ever since then. Now, every once in a while, Bryan Johnson will launch a new product on the Blueprint Protocol. That's his website selling all these health products, and I'll get emails about it. And what's interesting is just a few weeks after I made my video about him, Bryan Johnson launched a new product on his store. It is the extra virgin olive oil travel packs. Very interesting, Bryan. Very interesting. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the olive oil, this is the olive oil that Bryan Johnson talked about on the Diary of a CEO podcast, where he told everyone that taking olive oil would help you lose more weight than Ozempic.
It's better than Ozempic.
Really?
It is. And so, for example, there's a study where people lost 5.2 pounds taking consuming Evo for 9 weeks.
And then later, when called out about that statement on More Plates, More Dates, a podcast with Derek, he confessed that he had no idea what he was talking about, and he just basically misread the article that was saying that was true. So it's not true at all.
You mentioned there was a study where individuals consumed extra virgin olive oil for 9 weeks and lost 5.2 pounds. And it was in addition to what they're currently eating. It's better than Ozempic.
You know what? That was before we went through the process.
Oh, okay.
And so when I did that podcast and we started going through the whole process, like, oh my God, I really should have cleaned up my language.
Okay.
So yeah, that was before.
He's been selling this snake oil olive oil for some time, but he launched the new extra virgin olive oil travel packs just recently, right? Just a few weeks ago. Now, when I saw this launched, I clicked on it, I went to the blueprint protocol, and I saw that right off the bat, this brand new item that was launched already has 1,338 reviews. All positive, by the way, 5 stars. That is amazing, Bryan. The fact that you can launch a brand new product and literally within days of that brand new product being on your store, you already have over 1,000, over 1,300 5-star reviews telling people how amazing your little travel packets of your olive oil really are. So amazing, I didn't believe it was true, guys, so I did a little digging. I did a little digging to this. And what's really interesting is he has another listing for the extra virgin olive oil, the actual bottle of it, right? And you can see that it has the same exact amount of reviews, 1,338. So it would lead me to believe that Bryan Johnson just copy-pasted reviews from an old product onto a new product, which is very, very disingenuous. You really shouldn't do that in business, copy over reviews, right? So let's take a closer look. If you actually look at the extra virgin olive oil, you go to the reviews. The first 3 reviews are all solid product. I'll be reordering for sure. Put your trust in Bryan and amazing. So those are the titles for the first 3 reviews on the snake oil, right? The bottles. So let's go over to the actual little extra virgin olive oil travel packs. We'll click on that. We'll look at the reviews. And sure enough, the first 3 reviews are solid product. I'll be reordering for sure. Put your trust in Bryan and amazing. So it looks like, yes, 100%, Bryan Johnson decided to just copy-paste reviews from an old product onto a new product, right? That's very dishonest. That's a very immoral business practice to do. Now, next up, I want to take a look at some actual Reddit posts from Bryan Johnson's own subreddit called Blueprint. Now, I mentioned this in the last video. If you don't know, a lot of big social media influencers, a lot of YouTubers will have their own subreddit. And what will happen over time, in many cases, it'll go from mostly positive reviews, and over time, sentiment about that individual will change, and then the actual post on their subreddit will kind of turn bitter, right? I've mentioned this with another YouTuber, Meet Kevin. If you actually go to his subreddit, it is nothing but negative posts about Meet Kevin. His own subreddit has completely turned on him. Now, Bryan Johnson and the Blueprint subreddit is basically a mix of like 50-50 at this point. There's still a lot of people that really like Bryan Johnson, but there's also a lot of people that like to call him out. So we're going to take a look at some of the actual posts on his subreddit calling him out. Now, the first one I want to take a look at is this one right here. It says, how come Bryan Johnson protein bars doesn't say where they are made from? Only said distributed from LA. When I checked online, AI kept saying ingredients from South Africa. I like BJ, but I don't like the fact they are trying to hide where when made from. Why so shady about it? Not impressed. And that's really interesting. So he uploads a box of the protein bars. Again, these are a processed product. Bryan's always about, eating whole, healthy foods. And now he's making these processed protein bars for you to buy as well. Very interesting. But you can see everywhere on the box, it doesn't say where the product is made. It just says distributed by Continuance LLC, Wilshire Boulevard, Los Angeles, right? Top comment says, because he would get shit on if everyone knew they were made in China. So that's very interesting. I know in certain parts of the world, again, you do need to say specifically what the product that you're selling, if you're selling a food product, you need to say specifically where that product was made. I don't know all of the ramifications if Bryan Johnson is doing something illegal with his product here. I really don't know. But I think at the very least, Bryan, you should be putting on here exactly where your products are made. Are they made in America? Or are they potentially made in China, like this top commenter said that has 48 upvotes right there? I don't know. But that, again, something that's very, very misleading. Bryan Johnson, again, Bryan Johnson is the guy that's completely transparent, guys. He says in his videos all the time, the most transparent dude out there. But he's not going to tell you where his protein bars are actually made.
Everything's transparent.
Everything's transparent. Everything's transparent.
Now, another thing Bryan likes to say in his videos is that he's spent, countless hours making the best products, the healthiest products for Blueprint to sell to people. So you can trust him 100%. There's nothing wrong. Other companies, he did a whole video trashing his competitor, AG1, right? I talked about that in the past video. AG1, terrible product, but my products, guys, they're top notch. You can trust me. But if you actually see, there's a lot of people that are very dissatisfied for a number of reasons about the products Bryan is selling. So on his subreddit, this title post, Macadamia Protein Bar Quality Issue. Just opened and found out flakes everywhere in the box. My hand felt sticky. Then those bars stick to the plastic wrap. I'm concerned. Just requested replacement. And you can see all of the photos he added of the macadamia bars, another processed product that he's selling. Don't look too great. They're covered in a bunch of flakes, and a lot of people saying in the comments they've been experiencing this as well. So apparently there's some severe quality control issues going on with Blueprint. But don't you worry, guys. Blueprint is the best product out there. Bryan made sure he only sources and creates the best products for his people to follow the Blueprint protocol. So let's take a look at another one. It says Blueprint Cocoa not available for delivery to most European countries anymore. Do we know more about this? This product in your cart is not available for delivery in France. You can see from that screenshot. And it says, there was a recent post about this. It's apparently illegal to be sold in EU due to high heavy metal levels, LMAO. And Bryan said it doesn't matter because they changed serving sizes. So I mentioned this in the past video, that Bryan did a whole video talking about all these different cocoa products that he tested. And all of them had high heavy metals. And then he released his new cocoa that he's selling his audience. Guys, trust me, my product is the best. But apparently, according to this, it can't be sold in the EU because the heavy metal content is too high. They actually got around that. They got a warning from the state of California. They got around that by changing the serving size. Apparently, that's what this says here. And that's how they're able to sell the their cocoa products in California. But that's very interesting that, if what they're saying in the comments is true about this having high heavy metals as to why they can't actually sell this product in the EU. Because again, Bryan is the most transparent, most honest guy out there. Everything is transparent. So it'll be nice to know what kind of excuse Bryan comes up with as to why his product potentially has high levels of metal and can't be sold in the EU.
Everything's transparent.
Everything's transparent. Everything's transparent.
Now, the final Reddit post I want to take a look at is talking about the high cost of Bryan's products, and that's very true. I think for this longevity, this little bag of longevity mix that I bought, I think this was like $57, almost $60 for that tiny thing when I bought it. His products are very, very expensive, in my opinion, overpriced, especially considering you can find better products for cheaper. Let's take a look at this article. It says, costs and benefits of Blueprint brand macadamia nuts. Blueprint now sells 4-ounce bags of raw macadamia nuts for $9, $8.55 if subscribing. For comparison, Amazon sells 24-ounce bags of Just brand macadamias for $29.95, $26.95 if subscribing. Bryan has a video with It's Just Foods in his pantry, suggesting he views them as somewhat high quality. Amazon also sells 8-ounce bags of Island Harvest organic macadamias for $17.99. These comprise the top unsalted raw macadamians on Amazon. This makes Blueprint 80% more expensive than It's Just or equal to Island Harvest. So you're paying 80% more for Bryan Johnson's overpriced products, some of them allegedly, not this, but the cocoa, actually allegedly gets warnings from the state of California for high heavy metal content. I thought they were the best products out there. So Bryan Johnson has been using, you can see in the video, he used another company's macadamia nuts. So why wouldn't he considers that product good enough for him to use, obviously, or it wouldn't be in his pantry. So why would you buy his overpriced products when a product he has used is much cheaper? And why would you not just buy that? It doesn't make any sense to buy his overpriced products. There's no reason to be participating in Blueprint, which in my opinion is just a money-making scheme to make as much money for Bryan as possible. I talked about how he sells NFTs and jewelry as well on the website. What does it have to do with living forever, Bryan? I don't know why selling an NFT is going to help your people live longer, but that's something Bryan sells as well. Now, the final thing I want to mention about Bryan is he actually responded just a few days after I put out my initial video. Bryan put out a long tweet thread on X or Twitter talking about one of the main arguments that I had in my video, and that was how his erections were not natural. And this is a selling point on his website. He talks about how he has the healthiest erections on the planet. He monitors his product, his unit, and he has verified that he has the healthiest erections. But I pointed out that he's actually using performance-enhancing drugs for Bryan's little Johnson. He's using Tedalopil, which is the active ingredient in Cialis, which helps you maintain stronger and harder erections, right? So he responded to that. I take 2.5 milligrams of Cialis daily, not for erections, but for longevity. Here's what the science says about Cialis and lifespan extension, and why it's not the reason behind my 3-hour-long Titanic nighttime erections, all right? So Bryan Johnson is making the claim that the reason he's taking Tedalopil is not for erections at all. And I will give him that point. A lot of people take it for prostate issues because it can help keep your prostate at a normal level, because as men age, their prostates can get larger. And in the health hacking industry, some people have been taking it for longevity reasons as well. There's been some minor studies that have shown that taking Tedalopil regularly can potentially help decrease the potential of certain things like heart attacks and stuff like that. I'm not saying that that's not why Bryan is doing that, but Bryan needs to understand that if you're taking a drug, it doesn't matter the reason you're taking it. It's going to help give you better erections. Okay, Tedalopil is a vasodilator. So basically, it increases your blood vessel size all over your body, including down there in Bryan's little Johnson, right? So whatever reason you are taking it for, it is going to have an effect on your erection quality. So for Bryan Johnson to use this as a selling point on his website, the healthiest erections on the planet, this is on his website, right when you go to the page when you're trying to buy products, he is being very disingenuous as to the fact that he is still taking performance-enhancing drugs. It doesn't matter the reason he's taking it. It is affecting his little Johnson, and it is helping him maintain and get healthier and stronger erections. A lot of bodybuilders actually use Tedalopil when they go to the gym, because like I said, it's a vasodilator, increases the blood flow all over your body. So if you go to the gym, you get a nice pump. If you're on Tedalopil, you'll actually get an insane pump. I may or may not have tried that myself. I'm not saying you should do that. You should definitely check a doctor. But I'm saying that a lot of people, I know there's a YouTuber who made a video about that. So a lot of people use Tedalopil for various different reasons. That's fine. But if you're using it, it will affect the little Johnson down there. It 100% will affect it as well, okay? So it's very dishonest for Bryan to say stuff like that. Now, finally, one last thing I want to mention is I'm not the only one that has talked negatively about Bryan Johnson. There's another person by the name of Joseph Everett. He's What I Learned is his YouTube channel, right? And he's been doing, he did a 30-day series on Bryan Johnson on his Instagram account. I think it's uploaded to YouTube as well. And Bryan Johnson finally responded. He wrote on Instagram calling Joseph Everett out. And he said, who's funding the months he spent working on these videos? His financial motives are unclear. He's previously faced scrutiny for not disclosing financial ties to the meat industry. I'm openly plant-based, but have never imposed this choice on others. You do you. So Bryan Johnson is implying that these hit pieces by Joseph Everett were potentially funded by the meat industry. He doesn't provide any evidence of that at all. And Joseph actually responded and asked for him to issue a retraction. Because honestly, I got to be honest with you, Bryan Johnson, that's very slanderous to say that someone is funding hit pieces against you because the meat industry is paying them, and you don't provide any evidence. You got to provide actual evidence, kind of like how I did earlier in the video when I said you were copy pasting reviews, and then I showed on the screen exactly how you were copy pasting reviews. That's evidence, right? Like if I just said, oh look, he's copy pasting reviews and didn't show anything, that would be kind of like what you're doing in this response. It's almost slanderous, Bryan Johnson. I'm just saying. I'd like to see a little evidence, Bryan, is all I'm saying. But there you go. Those are the extra things that Bryan Johnson has been doing recently that I find very disingenuous and very dishonest. The review thing is the biggest issue to me. Copy pasting reviews for a new product is an incredibly immoral business practice to do. This new product needs to stand on its own two legs, right? But let me know in the comments below, what do you think about Bryan Johnson? Are you still a Bryan Johnson fanboy? Or, I should say you're not a fanboy. Are you in the Bryan Johnson cult? Because if you don't know, Bryan Johnson now sees himself as a religious leader, and so you're in a cult.
Bryan Johnson is apparently starting an actual cult called Don't Die. Here's his co-founder.
Is Don't Die a cult? Great.
Don't Die is a religion. My competitor's Jesus. People take their savings and they put it into a Don't Die managed fund, like $1 trillion under management.
So let me know down below if you are still part of the Bryan Johnson cult, or if you have decided to excommunicate and now you are against Bryan Johnson and the Don't Die religious movement.